Ooh, it's horse beef. What's going on, guys? I want to talk about Max Holloway dusting off his old bitter, salty, sore loser personality that he debuted after his first loss, I believe it was, to Volkanovski.
If you listen to the experts, all the experts gave me rounds 4 and 5. If we're looking at stats, you guys want to talk about stats? We're talking about stats. We'll see who hit who more in the head, in the body, who defended more, whatever takedowns. If you look at the cards, it shows everything. So you guys can go back and look at it yourself.
Right, and Volkanovski, I think, said it best at the end of the day.
Yeah, man, I've been saying, like, he sounds a bit salty. He sounds a bit, he's got a sour taste in his mouth. I don't know what it is. I guess losing's hard, but I just didn't think he would take it that way. And I think he's just starting to take it a little bit too far, and I don't know where he's going with it.
And he's correct. It's not a good look on him, especially when you watch the fight and realize how one-sided it actually was in Volkanovski's favor. Yeah, man, it's honestly quite delusional, or it was quite delusional for Max Holloway, but like I said, he's up to the same stuff again. He did an interview with Shaq MMA, and he kind of just pulled out some Reddit arguments for why Ilia Topuria is overrated, I guess, and this run that he's on is overrated, which I found to be pretty interesting, and it just does not suit Max Holloway whatsoever. Like, he's genuinely a pretty likable guy otherwise, but when he pulls out shit like this, it seems out of character, and kind of reminds me of him leading up to the third Volk fight, where he was being quite bitter as well. I don't know.
That's why you can't spar anymore, because you get punched in the head too much.
I can't hear you. Let him have him, Nine Island. Let him have him. Let him have it. Let him have it.
Oh, good.
I can't hear you to the noise,
here all
brother.
day.
I can't hear shit.
Hey, I love
I can't hear shit, brother.
Hey, you can...
I don't know, Max Holloway, it seems like it's just fight week. Maybe the weight cut gets to him and it causes him to act out, but we'll talk about that. Before we get into that, I want to touch on Conor McGregor real quick, because I've been hearing rumors, talking about him sending some unsavory pictures to Azalea Banks, or whoever the fuck that is. Who is Azalea Banks? I have no clue. But she leaked some pictures, right? So I'm sifting the internet trying to find these pictures that were leaked, and I'm thinking, oh my god, Conor McGregor must have sent like some real unsavory shit to Azalea Banks, man. But then I find this picture, and Conor McGregor's just lifting weights, right? It's a healthy life choice. He's sending pictures of him lifting weights to Azalea Banks. Guys, I don't see the issue here. It's a healthy life decision. He's promoting a healthy lifestyle in this picture. So if anything, he should be commended for lifting weights. I think this is beautiful, personally. So guys, false alarm. Conor McGregor didn't do anything wrong here. He's just lifting weights, and we should celebrate him for that. In fact, he's inspired me to go lift some weights myself. So guys, Conor McGregor is the man. But back to the matter at hand here. Of course, we're talking about Max Holloway being a bit of a salty guy, one of Ilia Topuria's victims. It seems like all of Ilia Topuria's victims have a hard time, at least the most recent ones have a hard time giving him credit, other than Charles Oliveira. Of course, Charles Oliveira is critical of his performance, which is fine. It's fine to be critical of your performance. Even Volkanovski going on the DJ podcast.
No one could have told me any different. Everyone's like, well, what are you doing? You should be having a big break. Mm-hmm. It's going to affect your confidence, and I'm like, bullshit.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah, that's
even
what I
though I was knocked out longer with Ilia, I had a lot more of the symptoms than that with these ones. So I probably should have had more.
I think the protocol
break.
is 90 days, no contact whatsoever.
I didn't have head contact, but then when you're easing into it, now you're easing into it, making sure you're not getting hit.
Yeah, but
putting yourself in trying to put yourself in safer positions.
Yeah,
you even start camp wrong. I should have had the break. So we did the whole process. We did it properly.
Okay.
You could say this is coping, because he's saying that he maybe should have taken a longer time to turn around, and that, in my opinion, yes, it's a bit of an excuse, I guess you could say, but at the same time, not really, because of course, as a fighter, as a high-level fighter, you know what you're capable of, and if you don't do your best out there, or you don't feel like you did your best out there, of course, you'll look for reasons and try and poke holes as to why you didn't perform at your best, right? So I can kind of understand it with Volkanovski. He's not being a complete salty bastard in this interview, but aside from the point, DJ, honestly, dude, DJ in this interview is kind of insufferable. The man does not let Volkanovski speak. I don't know what he was on for this interview. And I'm a fan of DJ and his content, generally speaking. I like the guy, but man, he annoyed the hell out of me in this interview. I recommend going and listening to it, regardless of how unlistenable it actually is. It's honestly just not a great watch. But Volkanovski does kind of let you into his thoughts about that loss to Ilia Topuria, and I recommend going and listening to it just for that reason alone, if you can get through DJ constantly interrupting Volkanovski. Having said that, though, it still does seem like Volkanovski has a hard time fully giving Ilia Topuria credit for that knockout win over him. But no one that I've seen has taken it as far as Max Holloway did in this clip right here.
It's just tough, right? Yeah, he has the names, right? He beat the names, and you can't deny that. But then, when you look, it just sucks that, with everything that's going on, when you look at that Volk fight, with that Volk coming off of what he did, that's kind of crazy.
Of all the asterisks that people are putting on Ilia Topuria's most recent wins, the Volkanovski one is the strongest asterisk, I would say. I do agree that, maybe he should have taken a little bit more time off. But then again, as Volkanovski says himself, they did everything properly, right? The concussion protocol, they went through it properly, but he was, I guess, more worried about getting knocked out in camp and probably thinking more about getting knocked out in the fight. But then for Volkanovski to come back against Diego Lopez, obviously after taking a lot more time off, but still after 2 brutal knockout losses, came back and recaptured the belt at the age of 36. And for me personally, as someone who loves Volkanovski as a fighter, I'm a huge fan of his, as a personality as well. Like, I'm a huge fan of Volkanovski. I think he's a fantastic human being, and for me, he could easily be a top 3 fighter of all time. I think he's a legend, one of the best of all time, easily, greatest of all time, I should say, but also one of the best. I still do think that Ilia Topuria knocks out any version of Volkanovski. He's just simply a stylistic nightmare for the guy. Volkanovski's tendencies, his defensive tendencies, backing himself all the way up to the fence, leaving his chin up in the air and trying to pull back on shots. He was always going to get caught by Ilia Topuria. It was just a matter of when. It was an inevitability.
But people just look at the name. They're not looking at the record. They're just looking at, Alex was the champ, and then me. And
so are you trying to insinuate that you're washed up here, Max Holloway? Because from what I remember correctly, right, you called out Ilia Topuria after potentially the best performance and best moment of your entire career. You called out Ilia Topuria, and then he knocked you out for the first time. Like, the first man to ever knock you out or drop you. So where's the asterisk? You called him out. He accepted your challenge after everyone was saying that he looked scared, and then KO'd you. So where's the asterisk? Are you insinuating that you're washed up here? I'm not really understanding what Max Holloway's point was there when bringing up his own name.
And then Charles did what he did. But Charles was on him, what was Charles on? A 1-fight win streak, so.
And there's the Reddit argument right there. What was Charles on a 1-fight win streak? Everyone likes to compare Islam's win over him, cracking his long win streak, and then Ilia, oh my God, he's only on a 1-fight win streak. But, do you really feel like that's a strong point against Charles Oliveira and that win over Charles Oliveira? Is that to suggest that Charles Oliveira's washed up because he was on a 1-fight win streak? Like, he dominated Michael Chandler. Yeah, almost got finished in the 5th round. Sure, he dominated Michael Chandler. Before that, had a razor-close fight with Arman Tsarukyan, who everyone thinks is next in line for the title, or should be next in line for the title, which I agree he definitely should be, and who Lucas Tracy ranks as the number 18 best fighter of all time, right? So, that's just, I still can't wrap my head around that. But it was a razor-close fight that a lot of people thought Charles should have won, and who has he lost to other than that? Besides Ilia Topuria, Islam Makhachev, right? The previous pound-for-pound number 1 in the world. So, what are we on about? He beat everybody else. To many people, he beat Arman Tsarukyan. Just because he lost a fight, does that somehow mean that he's a washed-up fighter? Charles Oliveira's washed up, or it's not a great win because of the win streak? But Charles only lost to Arman Tsarukyan and Islam Makhachev before losing to Ilia Topuria. He's lost to the best fighters in the world. And one of those being a razor-close, like I said, split decision that many people thought could have gone the other way. So, man, this 1-fight win streak argument, to me, is just completely brain dead, and it's just an example of people moving the goalpost to further tear down Ilia Topuria's recent wins.
At the end of the day, it's just moments, and it's just names. It is one of the greatest names for sure that he beat in history, but the man is doing what he's supposed to do. He's lining. UFC are lining people up for him. And he's just knocking them down.
You heard it here first. The UFC is just lining up people for Ilia Topuria to knock down, and he's doing his job. He's doing what the UFC wants him to do. But when you called out Ilia Topuria, was that in your mind? Were you thinking that you were just lining yourself up for Ilia Topuria to knock out, or did you think that you could go out there and beat Ilia Topuria off the back of the best performance of your entire career, where you proclaimed, I'm him. Remember that? I'm him? And then you got knocked out? Right? I'm not too sure, especially with Max Holloway here, it seems like he would rather tear down himself rather than build up Ilia Topuria and just admit that he caught him, and it was a great shot, and he's just better than these guys. Like, can't these dudes just admit it? They seem to have a real hard time with that. We then have this quote from Max Holloway here, where he says, "I felt that Gaethje hits hard and Gaethje kicks hard. When Ilia hit me, nothing was like, oh man, he hits hard or whatever." Now, I don't have a huge problem with this quote. It actually makes a lot of sense, because he wasn't knocked out by Justin Gaethje. He wasn't even really stunned by Justin Gaethje. At any point, you could say that he dropped him right with that shot. Right, it looked like it landed behind the ear and dropped Max Holloway briefly, and maybe had him hurt for a second. But other than that, he wasn't at all hurt. And Ilia Topuria rocked Max Holloway real bad, stunned him and dropped him and finished him, and honestly put him out, right? So obviously you would think that Max Holloway has more of a recollection of those shots that he absorbed against Justin Gaethje, because he wasn't put out, as opposed to Ilia Topuria, who concussed him, knocked him out cold, and he probably has no real recollection of what even happened during that fight. So it makes sense that he would think that Justin Gaethje hits hard, because he actually remembers the shots that Justin Gaethje landed against him. You know what I mean? So this isn't the worst quote in the world, but it also still comes across as Max Holloway refusing to give credit to Ilia Topuria in any way whatsoever, right? Everything is just about, yeah, man, he's doing his thing, the UFC lining him up and he knocking him down, It is what it is, man. We'll see October 26th. But ultimately, I think it comes down to the fact that Max Holloway seems to just completely hate Ilia Topuria. Like, I think back to this interview between the two of them, where Ilia Topuria, like, honestly, like, with English being his like third, fourth, fifth language, still talks circles around Max Holloway and completely mind fucks him with the "Who is Joe" moment there. It just seems like Max Holloway hated this little fucking guy.
Ilia, why did you purchase a BMF belt?
Because I want it.
Sound like a spoiled child.
Blah, 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 blah. Max? Bro, what the fuck is this? Don't do that.
Same exact Joe. Same exact Joe. What are you talking? And you know it. You're laughing because you know it.
Him and Joe.
What are you
I
talking about?
don't fucking know who's Joe. Who's Joe?
What?
So there we have it, man. Max has just always been annoyed by this little guy. It's just very, very clear. But, like, I'm just having fun at the end of the day. I'm just trying to make fun of Max a little bit. I know he's a fan favorite, and honestly, a favorite of mine too. I would personally put him in like my top 20 favorite fighters of all time, which is a very prestigious list to be on, I must say. So I'm a big fan of Max, right? I'm just not a fan of excuse making and being a sore loser. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Volkanovski falls under somewhat of a similar category. But it's very interesting to me how Ilia Topuria specifically pushes these previously very humble individuals into being somewhat of bitter, salty, sore losers, right? And it kind of applies to Volkanovski, but in this case, it very much applies to Max Holloway, as I showed with his history being a sore loser after his losses to Volkanovski, right? So maybe it's just that we don't get to see these guys lose very often, so when they do lose, they do sort of start to show those chinks in their armor a little bit. But then again, we don't really know what it's like to be in there. We don't know what it's like to take high-profile losses like this, so ultimately, it's hard for us to really relate at the end of the day. So it's easy for us to go and poke fun and call him out for it, like I always like to do. I genuinely do enjoy making these types of videos, but I still do acknowledge that I don't even know the half of what it's like to be on the level of Volkanovski or Max Holloway and take losses at that level, you know what I mean, and suffer losses that you consider to be unfair because of the judging, whatever. I don't understand what any of that's like, so we can poke fun all we want, but like I said, we don't know what that's like, so I'll really leave it at that. Definitely be looking forward to my Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier like full card breakdown. That's going to be coming tomorrow, so we got 2 uploads in a row. I know it's very rare for me these days, and I am pretty inconsistent these days with the uploads. Obviously, life gets in the way sometimes, and YouTube doesn't exactly pay the bills for me, so there are other things that I have to tend to as well in order to pay the bills. But I'll sort this shit out, and believe me, sometime in the near future, hopefully, we will have a situation where I'm uploading like every 2 days, and I don't want to shove myself down your throats and really upload every day. For me, that would just be me phoning it in just for the sake of ad revenue, and I don't want to put you guys through that. I don't need to be in your face every single day of your life. That's just not what I desire personally. But hopefully eventually we can do some streaming as well. I am a gamer, right? So there could be gaming streams coming up if that's something that you guys would be into. I could play UFC 5, or even if you guys are into this, Helldivers with some of you guys, right? Get a squad going and spread some managed democracy. I'm not too sure if you guys are into Helldivers too, but if you've never heard of it, I'm sure you have. But if you haven't, I definitely recommend looking into it. It's the most enjoyable game I've played in the last like 5 years or so, right? Some fight companions I would love to do, right? I'm considering potentially doing a fight companion for that Peter Yan card coming up where he's fighting McGee. I believe that's in Abu Dhabi. So depending on the timing of that, maybe that could be our first ever fight companion. So I'll do my very best there. But anyway, guys, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next one.